Opening scene. The city of Ashgrove glittered under the morning sun, a skyline of ambition, concrete, and greed. In the heart of it stood a vast field once known as Turner's Valley, quiet land that no one cared to remember. Until the HOA came. They promised urban renewal, 12 commercial towers, each one a monument to progress. But progress doesn't always come from light. Sometimes, it crawls from beneath the soil. Eli Turner lived alone in a crumbling farmhouse just beyond the site. His hands were rough from working the same earth his father once tilled. Every night he sat on the porch listening, not to the wind, not to the city, but to the faint hum that rose from the ground whenever the builders drove their drills into the soil. The workers joked that the land talked back. Eli knew better. It wasn't talking. It was warning. The Deal HOA president Grant Weller was everything Eli wasn't: loud, polished, proud. He told the press the new towers would bring life to dead ground. He never mentioned that the ground wasn't dead. When the city surveyor asked about the old property records, Grant waved him off. "Paperwork's handled," he said. What he didn't know, or chose not to know, was that one deed was missing. Eli Turner's whispers beneath the ground, by the 5th tower, the noises grew louder. Metal clanged beneath empty floors. A shadow moved through the basement before any walls were even built. One worker, Danny Cole, told his foreman he saw someone walking underground, a tall figure with a lantern. The next day, Danny didn't show up for work. They found his hard hat in the mud. Nothing else. Eli watched from the edge of the field as the ground shifted slightly each night, as if something beneath it was breathing. Still, he said nothing, because this wasn't about stopping them. It was about letting them finish what they'd started, and watching what the land would do. The ribbon ceremony. 6 months later, the towers were complete. Glass gleamed. Crowds gathered. Grant Weller stood proudly at the podium. As the mayor lifted the golden scissors, a figure stepped forward from the crowd. Eli Turner, holding a weathered folder. He didn't shout. He didn't smile. He simply placed the deed on the podium and said, "You built all this on my land." The microphones caught every word. The crowd went silent. Grant froze. And then the earth began to tremble. Collapse at first, it was just a rumble, a vibration underfoot. Then came the sound, deep, guttural, ancient. Concrete cracked. Glass shattered. The 12th tower swayed like a dying tree. Screams filled the air as the earth split open, swallowing part of the parking structure. Eli didn't move. He watched as if the land itself was reclaiming what had been stolen. When the dust cleared, 3 buildings were half sunk into the ground. Eli walked away in silence. By sunset, he was gone. The disappearance. The HOA tried to cover it up. Structural instability, they said. They paid off the city, fenced off the property, and filed lawsuits against everyone except themselves. But a week later, Grant Weller disappeared. His car was found at the site entrance, door open, engine running. Inside, a handful of dirt and a piece of paper with one sentence written in shaky ink. It remembers. Years later, the journalist, 3 years passed. The site remained sealed. Weeds grew through the cracks of the once shining plaza. Then came Mara Quinn, an investigative journalist with a reputation for chasing what others feared. Her father had worked in that project and never came home. She wanted answers. When she visited the ruins, locals warned her, "Don't stay past sunset. The land doesn't like visitors." She didn't listen. Reporters rarely do. The discovery Mara found the old Turner farmhouse still standing, untouched by time. Inside, dust covered everything, except for one photo on the wall, Eli Turner and his father, standing in front of a sign that read, "Turner Land, bound by blood." She searched the house and found an old journal, its pages brittle with age. The last entry read, "They've taken what isn't theirs. The ground will remember. The land will answer." That night she heard footsteps outside, slow, deliberate, heavy. When she looked through the window, she saw a light moving between the towers. A single lantern. The same light Danny Cole once described. The tunnel determined, Mara returned the next day and found a maintenance shaft half buried under rubble. She descended with a flashlight. The air was cold, too cold for summer. And the deeper she went, the louder the hum became. At the bottom, she found an old stone archway carved with strange runes. And beneath the dust, she saw words etched in English: Turner Line, Keeper of the Soil. Inside the chamber lay 12 stone pillars, each with a name engraved. The names of every HOA board member who approved the project. 11 pillars were cracked. One remained untouched. Grant Weller's. The voice as Mara touched the last pillar, the lights on her recorder flickered. And then she heard it. A voice, deep and distant, whispering her name. Mara, he's still here. She turned and saw a figure in the shadows, tall, motionless, holding a lantern. It was Eli Turner, or what was left of him. His skin looked pale as ash, his eyes dark as the soil. He spoke slowly, like the earth itself was using his tongue. They built on my father's blood. The land took back what it was owed. But they'll keep coming. They always do. Then he handed her the deed, and as her flashlight flickered, he vanished, leaving only dust and the echo of his footsteps fading into the dark. The final report, Mara's article, never got published. Her editor said the story was too unbelievable. A month later, she disappeared too, but before she vanished, she mailed a package to a friend, a sealed envelope marked, "If I'm gone." Inside were the deed, the journal, and a note that said, "The land doesn't die. It waits." Epilogue: today, the city plans to rebuild on the same site again. A new project, a new promise of progress. But the locals say when the wind blows at night, you can hear the hum beneath the ground and see a faint light moving between the ruins, carrying a deed that no one dares to claim. Because in Ash Grove, everyone knows one truth: you can pave over history. You can silence witnesses. You can even bury the dead, but you can't bury the land. Because the land always digs its way back.